Hello out there, and welcome to the second episode of the LA Poker Roundup. Here's what we have in store for you today. I am your host, Ty Dobberton, and along with my co host, Derek Kwan. The first
What's
weekend
up,
of the
everyone?
Commerce. Ooh, hello. The first weekend of the Commerce Hold'em series is now in the books, and we'll run down the winners so far, as well as some stories from day two of the first tournament, the Big 50.
And over the Bike Mega Millions, they're down to the final table, and there's some notable players left. We're going to find out who's going to be playing for that $400,000 first place prize.
Awesome. And what could become a new segment for us, we're calling Procedural Error. We are going to review some Twitter complaints slash suggestions for the local casinos and tournaments in general, including some concerns about the possibility of cheating in these multi-bag tournaments, and as well as some suggestions about ways to potentially make the big blind ante rule more fair towards the ends of the tournament.
And what's happening next weekend? We're going to break down the Commerce Bounty Multiplier. It's going to be a big, big tournament.
Also, I don't know if you've heard, but our very own Derek has a YouTube channel of his own where he's laid down a $1 million tournament earnings challenge for himself. What do you think? Can he make it? So we're going to talk about that, and we'll see. We'll see what he thinks. We'll see what I think, and we'll get an update.
And lastly, we're going to do a weekly roundup of what's happening this weekend, and it's some breaking news out of the Gardens Casino.
Awesome. So let's get started. First things first. The Commerce Big 50 wrapped up this weekend. That wrapped up on Sunday. And here we go. The winner was Joseph Gustillo. Congratulations to him. Not only did he get the big win, he got the nice trophy, and he gets the first trophy of the series. This tournament ended in a four-way chop between Joseph, Jose Robles, Jagdish Viswani, and Cedric Darrett. We actually have a picture of all four of those guys right here, courtesy of the Bad Beat Blockers Twitter page, I believe I got this off of. So here we go. So congratulations to all those guys. Derek did not actually play this thing, if I recall correct, because he was too busy getting an extra bag going over at the bike.
Yeah, lucky
I,
for you.
I, however, was able to get in there, and let me tell you, it was a great time. The Big 50 was a pretty big success for Commerce, I'd say. They had 798 entries across all the starting flights for a total prize pool of $159,600, smashing the guarantee of 100K. First prize in the tournament was originally 28,000, a little over 28,000. After the chop, Joseph took home about 20K, just shy of 20,000. So I had a pretty good time. These big 50s, they're a $250 buy-in, and let me tell you, Derek, they are wild. I don't know if it's the buy-in or if it's the players or if it's a combination. I know when I play them, I tend to play a lot looser myself. I know at the LAPC Big 50 in January, I think I might have. I personally wouldn't be surprised if I set the record for buy-ins there. I think I fired 11 or 12 times into those six flights, so that was pretty impressive for myself. But it's not just me. Everybody in these things is playing. They're swinging for the fences. They're having a great time. My day two table, though, I tell you what, it was not an easy table by any stretch. I had a pretty good day. Spoiler alert, I'll tell you, I finished in 25th, which I'm pretty proud of. Would have liked to have gone a little further, but all in all, not bad. My starting table, though, had a lot of familiar faces at it. Some guys that you may know, Derek. For instance, playing at my table, I had myself, Vanik Azizian. He's a guy who won two Remingtons back-to-back weeks earlier in the year here. Gary Reknar, a reg around here who had, I believe, two final tables at the World Series this year. And another fun guy to play with, Ed Elikani, who I believe he final tabled one, if not two, of the Quantums at the bike earlier in the year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. These guys, definitely tricky players. I played with all of them before. They're definitely going to keep you on your toes with their unpredictability. So always good playing these regs. They kind of up your game, right? With how you have to kind of respond to how they play. From the winners, Cedric actually was one of my heads up opponents, and we really like battled for like an hour and a half or something over like three matches. Really great guy. I'm glad to see him finish in the top four and get a nice cash there with 15, whatever that is, like 10K. So that's great finish. Yeah, it seems like an awesome tournament. 250 buy-in. It is going to be a little bit wild, but definitely a lot of value there. It looks like you got a lot of value out of it. Finishing in 25th. It's pretty tough to cash in these things sometimes.
Yeah, as I found out in January when I bought in 12 times. No, there were some wild hands throughout the day. Let me tell you, just at my original table, I saw set over straight draw, and the lower set managed to win that one. In fact, Vanek was the winner there. Go figure there. So Vanek got in with a set of sevens versus a set of aces, managed to run out the flush. So that was kind of fun. I had a really fun one myself where I got all in pre-flop with aces versus two players who both had ace queen, managed to hold there. And then another friend of ours, later on when we were down to about four tables left, I got moved over to play with Fausto Valdez, another local reg who also poker coach, who's I believe he coaches Poker Face Ash. Had him at my table, and I saw him take a really nasty beat. Fausto opens up aces, only gets called by one player. Flop ace 5-5. Check, turn 3. Bet raise call, river a 5. And don't you know it, the other
Oh my
guy
gosh.
had the last 5. Fausto
Oh my
flops,
gosh.
aces full, manages to lose to quads. It was crazy.
And he took a massive beat in the
Yeah,
mega too at my table. When we get
yeah.
to the mega part, I can talk about that. Poor Fausto.
Yep, he was not running great this weekend. Now, after that hand, he still had plenty of chips, but I tell you, it's got to be, I mean, it's never fun to lose with aces full to a one-outer. My big hand of the tournament, speaking of, luckily, I'd say Mr. Jagadish, Jay, that man has my number at commerce tournaments. This January, the very last one-day event, I remember we got down to three-handed, and I got all in with him for pretty much all the chips on a flop where I had top pair with the ace and he had middle pair with the queen, and we got all in for all the chips, and he hit that two pair in the river and knocked me out of that guy. And then here,
Man,
with about 30 left, we got into a massive flip with my ace king versus his queens, and the pot was about not quite 2 million chips, and he took that one from me. So that really took all the wind out of my sails. But I'm really glad to see that he took those chips and he basically took it to the house, chopping up, getting the third biggest payout on that chop. So yeah, that guy, I got to look out for him. He's got my number, man.
yeah, you got to run good in these things, I guess, to finish big.
All right. So the other tournament that we have results for on the Commerce Hold'em series was the Survivor that ran later in that day. And, wouldn't you know it, I had a little extra time that day due to getting busted out of the Big 50. And I hopped onto that guy, and I was actually able to survive. So I am a
Wow.
survivor. Cue the music.
So you cashed twice in one day. Nice job.
I know, right? So I couldn't win, but I did get to get my name in the books a couple times. And
Nice.
I don't know why they wrote it in this order. I think this was the order we got paid out in. I had all the chips at the end. I just want to, just for the
They just
record,
put you.
I know that this is Survivor, but I am terrible at Survivors, and I never play them the way you're supposed to. And I just kept trying to get chips, so I had all the chips at the end. Just want to put that out there. But congratulations to Paul Kim, David Rhodes, David Asaki, and Polly Wu for also surviving in that afternoon tournament.
Good job, everyone.
Right now, I believe they are going, probably just finishing up the very first anti-reduction tournament there, but the results are not posted yet, so we can't go over that. We will talk about those and that tournament when it comes up again later in the series. All right. Let me get us back here. So let's move on over to the other casino. Let's go 15 minutes down the road to the bike, where quick PSA, if you haven't noticed yet, the bike no longer uses Poker Atlas for its cash games, which I'm pretty bummed out about. I used to always love going on Poker Atlas and getting my name on the list during the drive down. Now, I've been told that you should be able to add your name to the list with Bravo app pretty soon. The last time I tried, I think was a week ago. I still couldn't do it, but they are moving to Bravo for their cash games. So, little PSA there.
Good to know.
All right. So over there at the bike, we have the final numbers for the Mega Millions.
Mega Millions. What a massive tournament.
And look at this.
I mean, 1.5 million guaranteed. They hit 2.5 million in a prize pool. And whether people realize it or not, we have been in a poker boom for like 2 years. The bike was running a $1 million Mega Millions, and they increased the guarantees to 1.5 million. WPT is going to have a $4 million guaranteed in December for their main event. Obviously, the massive prize pool, over $10 million for first for the main event in the World Series. So tournament poker is absolutely booming. I think cash games are probably not seeing as much of a resurgence as tournaments are, but right now, almost all tournaments that you go to, there's a line out the door for registrations for these big ones. Yeah, and even we'll talk about this in a little bit, but just the bike struggling to handle that volume just to get day two off the ground because there are so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at this, 180 direct day two entries. 180 direct day two entries. That was a $3,600 entry fee right there. That 180 people ponied up. And
that's insane.
Yeah, and why don't we just go ahead and talk about some of that logistics, because I believe that could have been a higher number potentially if they had more room, more tables, right?
Yeah, I think these day twos sometimes just take a little bit of time to get off the ground, and I don't want to be in the middle of that, like trying to run this and run the logistics. There's so many people showing up, trying to take care of all the double baggers, trying to take care of new people kind of registering in and getting everybody seated. So many people, but yeah, it was something that started 45 minutes late almost.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love playing tournaments at the bike. I think their floors do a great job. They have a really good pool of dealers there. A lot of great dealers.
Yeah, fantastic dealers.
These day two chips, love them. Love these day two chips. But this is one thing, and I've only played in 2 of these Mega Million day twos now, but they both started well over a half hour late, and it's just, I know it is a lot of people, and the logistics of why it has to start late is a lot to do with these double bags. So because of all the double bags, and because they don't really know who is going to be where, because all the double bags have to be removed, they get assigned seats before that day. So basically what happens is on the day of, as soon as all of the tables in the room fill up, which I believe there's 45 tables, they start, basically everyone who bags is somewhat of an alternate, right? You were more or less an alternate when you showed up. Guaranteed a seat, of course, but you were, with your second bag, guaranteed. Yep. Yeah, so you had to wait in line to get your seat, and they gave you that seat based on the extra seats from bags that were getting removed. And
I didn't know that's how they did it.
They have to, right? So at my table, there were 3 seats who were double bags that weren't going to be there because they had a bigger bag at a different table, and one of them ended up being a direct buy-in, but the other ones were definitely day 2 bags because they started at under starting stack. So that's,
it seems like something they could have figured out then. Seems like that's something they could have figured out the night before or something, but
right. So that's kind of the thing, right? It's not like any of this is a surprise, though. True, they do get a lot of the data right at the very end of the day, but even with it taking 40 minutes to figure out here, I gotta just please, like my beg is please just start earlier. Just get there, open the doors a half hour earlier. Tell everybody whose seat or whose table number is higher than 45 to show up a half an hour earlier, and let's get this thing started a little sooner. All right, but that's a small
my day one table draw was super unfortunate. I was like one of the first people through the door, and I actually had Fausto at my table. I had Jared Greiner, and just a couple of other like really, really good players. I don't know all their names, but it was probably like one of the worst tables in the room, to be honest with you. Luckily, I had a really, really big stack, but I didn't try to push the table over too much because I felt like a lot of these players were just not going to get pushed around. So it was definitely an unlucky draw.
Yeah, I believe you had Gary, old Gary Reckner at your table Mega
Yeah,
Millions. Yeah, and you know he
yeah,
won't
he
be
was also
pushed
there
around.
too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then poor Fausto, because just hearing his bad beat from the other tournament, so it was really funny because there was about 40 seconds left on break, and I ran off to get an acai bowl at the coffee shop, so I kind of missed it. But when I came back, I saw him. It was like that meme you see when the guy's like walking with the pizza and the room's on fire. It was like me coming back with my acai bowl, all happy, and there's just like absolute chaos. Fausto's like storming away from the table. There's an empty seat with just like a humongous pile of unstacked chips in front of it, and then people were just like all gathered around, and people were trying to explain to me as I was sitting down like what happened, and I was like, "What happened?" But apparently, they both flopped two pair with Fausto with a better two pair. Got it in on the turn, and the guy rivered what was actually a one outer because the one other out he needed was in somebody else's hand. So yeah, super tough weekend for Fausto.
Oh man, man, I kind of hope he doesn't watch this so he doesn't have to relive. So have to relive all that again. That sounds brutal. That sounds brutal. It is cool that you came in with the bigger stack, though. You know, last week you said you were going to keep trying until you got more chips than me, and
It
kudos,
was a
you were
joke. I
able to
didn't
do
actually
it.
think I was going to do it because you had so many chips. So I don't actually know how I ended up with that much. But I guess fortunately it was enough to carry me to a cash. But unfortunately, I think I should have, finished a lot higher. But just in general, I think for this tournament, at that first table, I was playing really solid and I wasn't going too crazy with anything. But then I think after that, the two biggest pots I lost were bluffs, right? And just I always kind of look back at those and say, was it a good bluff or not? But in a tournament like this, it just feels like kind of not necessary. So kind of kicking myself a little bit for being a little bit too aggressive on some of those bluffs. But super happy that I ended up cashing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. You know, it's always good to go back and look at what maybe you could have done differently or whatnot. It's this
Yeah,
is such a unique tournament, you know, with the day two buy-ins, with the multiple satellites. I mean, this tournament we've been talking about it for the last 2 weeks, and we're going to talk about it again next week. This tournament goes on for 2.5 weeks or something. This is insane.
yeah.
And the players, you know, the last time I played this, we actually were at the same table the last time. In fact, you know, I believe I knocked you out of the last Mega Millions, if I recall correctly.
You did. You actually took a big pot from me. I don't even remember what the hand was, but you're in the
Oh,
blind. I
yeah.
think you called with something kind of marginal, and then
No, no,
like,
no, no. That I think that was an earlier one. I think I did that earlier, and that made you do this because I remember this
oh,
hand. I opened the cutoff. You were getting low. You're getting kind of low. I
oh yeah, the
opened the
bust out hand
cutoff.
that you had an ace
Yep,
king, right?
yep.
Yeah, I
I
remember
opened the
that. Yeah,
cutoff for probably like the millionth time, and you jammed on the button, I believe, with a suited king of some sort, right? Something like that.
yeah.
Yep, and I had it this time. I had the ace king. Yep. But the point I was going to make was that table, the direct buys were brutal. That table was probably also one of the hardest starting tables
Oh
after the
yeah,
first level, remember? Because
yeah, yeah,
first off, it was you and me and Larry, his last name Floor, Larry the Floor from the bike. So first
yep,
off, it was us three regs, and then as the direct buys came in, we got Jesse Lonis, we got Chino Ream, we got some other guy those guys knew who I didn't, maybe you did. And I got the impression that the fourth direct buy also knew all three of those guys. So
yeah.
so we're sitting there, and all of the direct buys were these Vegas pros who were talking about just flying in last second to come, you know, and that. Whew, I'm glad I was so
Yeah,
happy when that table broke. But
it was a tough table.
This Mega Millions, all the direct buys at my table really didn't seem like professionals at all. In fact,
Yeah, a lot of the Vegas pros didn't come for this one. I'm surprised. No.
yeah. So you know, such a wide variety of people playing this thing, and that also goes to show though these direct buys aren't just pros swooping in, right? Like these
Yeah,
179 pros, they're not just or direct entries. It's not just pros coming in and throwing the money down. We've
yeah,
got people in LA that just they want to play these things, right? So
yeah.
um, yeah. So
Looks
my
like we're
day
down to
two.
the final table.
Oh, we are now.
Looks like
Great.
we're Yeah, looks like we're down to the final table now, huh?
All right. So, yeah, just a quick recap. My day, my day one will be very easy to recap. Basically, we played 10-handed because the Mega Millions always plays handed. One more suggestion, if we have a suggestion box, they added 5 tables outside of the room for the beginning to play at.
I
Uh,
didn't know that there were tables outside.
yeah. So once they got everything kicked off and going, then they started opening some tables out in the other area, which is great. Awesome
Oh,
idea. Let's do it right away next time. The number of people coming back for day two already filled the room. You can only fit 450 people there if you 10-handed the whole thing. So right off the bat, you know, let's show up a little early and open another 10 tables outside, and and get started right away like that. But yeah, basically summarize my day one. 10-handed is brutal. I got zero hands, completely card dead. Managed to stay alive by bluffing for about half the field, but what was it? 171 cashed, I believe. We started. I think there were what were there about 500 and some odd people total entries. So yeah, total entries around 560 or so. It's hard to. I would have to know how many were double bagged to have the right number from this info. So I lasted, but I really I I've been running so well the last couple weeks. It was strange to be so card dead, and also just even the hands I folded wouldn't win. So really, just a whole lot of bleeding down, bleeding down, bleeding down. My bluffs actually worked, so I probably should have bluffed more often, but just really nothing I could do. Just kind of maybe if I had another 250K, I could have limped my way into the money, but I didn't have any hands, and I ran out of chips. So nothing exciting for me, unfortunately, but we'll get them next time, as they say. But exciting for these guys. Let's see.
Yeah.
Is there a better post I can bring up than this guy? Or speaking of the final
No, I think
table, let
this is
me.
probably good, so we can just like run through the people in the faces here.
All right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, great for these guys to be at such a huge final table with 400K up top. So first we got Paulo Cabrera, and I think you know the history of this guy a little bit more than me because I haven't played with him
Yeah,
before.
so some of these guys I don't know too well, but I tried to look them up real quick before we came here. So Paulo Cabrera, it looks like so this guy is from Spain, and in the last couple of years, all of his live results in Hendon are showing for World Series of Poker with a couple stop offs for WPT events, kind of in LA or in the area, with his big score coming in 2021, where he finished 21st. So we have kind of we just said there weren't a lot of pros coming into town. I'm not sure if he lives here or not, but this guy is definitely a serious player, and he's probably got a good shot at this thing, and he's coming to the final table. So way to go, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah, Lucian I don't know at all actually. I don't think I've ever played with him.
Yeah, I also do not know him. I couldn't find much about him, so kind of relative unknown here. Good luck to him. I don't think I played with him. I don't think I remember playing with him before either. So,
Yeah.
yep, good luck to that guy. And then we've got Ishan Bala here. I think some people are going to recognize him.
That's Brown Balla. Good for him. I know we follow each other on Twitter, although I've never like interacted with him or played with him, but good for him. Glad to see he's at the final table.
Yeah. It looks like he's kind of just jumping into tournaments the last couple years. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and in this year actually at the World Series, he finished fourth in the $3,000 six-handed
No
event,
kidding.
event 32.
Oh,
Yep, so that was his big score. He had 170,000 for that score, so he has a chance to surpass that if he does well today.
that's why Nick Airball kind of uses him as a bit of a poker mentor.
Yeah, he definitely has some skills. All right, now we have a Ryan Gomez.
So Ryan, I'd never played with before, but he was at my bust out table. He was there for a couple hours, and this guy was playing just super solid. Didn't seem to get out of line. Wasn't getting too sticky. And you know what? Like playing like that in a tournament like this can often take you very far as long as you just don't go completely carded or get like super bad beat. So not surprised to see a guy that was playing that solid make the final table. So good for him. Good luck with you, Ryan.
And then Alan Meyerson, a
Yeah, we
face
all know
that all the
Alan.
regulars are going to know. Absolutely. Alan is always there. This man is he's a survivor. He's a guy who hangs on. And honestly, I believe he's more of a mixed game player, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I do see him playing a lot of the mixed events. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I was looking through his tournament results on Hendon, the majority, he has more mixed game results,
Oh,
especially lately than Hold'em. I'm pretty sure he
I did
feels more
not know that.
comfortable over there. And when I saw him at when my table broke, or when I saw him when his table broke, he was pretty short stacked, with
Good for
about
him, man.
200 and something left to go. So he made quite a run up. So congratulations to Alan. Good luck. Um,
Yeah. I've had a
yeah,
lot of hours with Alan. I actually think he's a super solid no limit player. So not actually, he's been playing for such a long time. Not surprised that he's got the no limit skills. He's a solid player, but I wouldn't. He's not as tight as he seems. Like I've seen him get out of line with a lot of hands and show sometimes where it was like I was not totally not expecting that, but not surprised to see him at another final table. This guy's a really good poker player.
Yeah, he's been playing forever. He's been a staple in the community as far as I can tell. And you and I
Yeah,
both played our very first mixed game tournament not too long ago, a couple weeks ago,
yeah.
and I sat with Alan for I think about
Did you?
an hour and a half, maybe less,
Yeah.
about an hour. And I swear, we were playing the low ball game, and in the 4 hours before that, maybe one time someone turned over the wheel in whatever game we were playing, maybe twice. And then in the hour that I played with Alan, maybe 40 minutes, he got the wheel in three different games, like three different times. Like he got the wheel three times in three different games. Like it was insane. Like I'd seen it once the whole day, and then in 40 minutes, Alan gets it three times. So good
Yeah.
luck to him. I hope he has that kind of luck tonight or tomorrow if they have to push it into tomorrow. David Burns here.
Burns.
Unfortunately, he
Yeah.
had already been eliminated in 10th place,
Mm.
so his
I
run is
don't.
over.
I've seen him around. I don't think I've at least had not had significant volume with him, but good finish, man. Like 10th place is
Oh,
real good for a tournament
absolutely,
like this.
absolutely. And Tian Yu
Tanyu
Zhang,
Zhang.
Tanyu. Oh, there you go.
I played with him before a little bit. I think it was another one of these like big tournaments at the bike. I'm not sure if it was like a main, one of the ring event mains or one of these quantum events. He's also a pretty good, solid player from what I remember. It wasn't that many hands, but I think he also made the final table of that one where we played. So, props to him.
I believe so. When I looked at his Hendon, that was the case. I'm trying to bring it up again real quick, and I think that was quite recent. In fact, that was in in October of 2022. So last year in October. Does
Yeah,
that sound right?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I
It's
think that was I cashed that one. I don't remember how deep I went, but
looks like
yeah,
he got
good
second
player.
place back then. And
Yeah,
interestingly enough, he doesn't have many results, so he doesn't look like he plays too frequently live.
yeah,
Or he just got started recently, but he finished second last October, and now he's back in another final table. So good for him.
yep.
Good for him. You have Albin Bello.
Albin. Albin, congrats on making the final table. He's the guy who busted me. We got it all in with jacks versus nines, and then some other player decided they would just ship it in there with ace three off, and he spiked at nine. But I'm glad that he, took those chips and made the final table. So good luck to you, buddy.
Hey, I will look at that. I don't want to turn this into a thing, but it sounds like it's pretty good luck to take a huge pot off of one of us late in one of these things.
And just carry it.
Yep.
Yeah, my
Uh,
chips are in there somewhere. So good.
all right, and then of course we have
The legend,
David the
the
Dragon
dragon.
Fam.
Yeah, this guy's been around forever. He's been a crusher, and I think it seems weird. Like I hadn't seen him around for about a couple of years, but all of a sudden it seems like he's really back in action, playing a lot of the events in LA, and he's always been such a really good tournament player. Glad to see a guy like this has really kept up with the game. He's had a lot of really good results, I think, over the last year. So yeah, good to see him at the final table.
Yeah, you want to talk about his last year? He just won one of our 1 day 100K guarantee events here at the bike. So he won that one in on
Nice.
the 19th. Um, Back in August on the 4th, he got 13th at the $5,000 Seminole Hard Rock Poker Open. That was a 50,000 score. At the World Series this year, at the circuit, the World Series circuit in, I believe it's Dallas, Oklahoma, Durant. Is that Choctaw? Um, he got third in that for 130K. Still this year at the Win Summer Classic, he got seventh for 140K. So yes, this guy, he's a crusher. He's killing it this year. He's just destroying everything. So definitely a favorite at this final table. Definitely a someone you want to look out for, and he's been killing it around the LA area too. And here we have
Yeah, lastly,
James.
we got James Millard. I don't know. I think I recognize his face
Oh
back, and
yeah,
I have never played with him.
you want to know why we know James Millard? So I did a quick Hendon check on him, and he has a very unique Hendon. He has four results, the most recent of which are or being third place in April in the Mega Millions,
Nice.
back to back Mega Millions final tables.
That's crazy.
So
That's really hard to do. That is really, really hard to
it's
do.
extremely hard to do. Yeah, he got in on a satellite from the last one. I'm not sure if he bought in direct this time or not, but the last one he got in on a satellite, and the winner of the last one, Issa, he got eliminated early in the day, I believe. I don't believe he cashed. But this man, James Millard, two final tables.
I
Holy
guess if
cow!
you're gonna figure out, I guess if you're gonna figure out a specific tournament, the Mega Millions is a good one to figure out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, so since since we started this thing, since we brought this up, there have been some updates. So let's check the bike blog real quick and see what's going on. Here we go. So it looks like Ishan got eliminated in ninth place
Good game, buddy.
for 30K. Yep, GG, GG. You have to wait to beat that high score. Uh, Ryan Gomez. Wait, where's eighth? Oh, they did it in this order.
Millard is
James
eighth.
Millard, eighth. All right. So third and eighth. So third and eighth. Still pretty good. Ryan
Yeah.
Gomez in seventh.
Good game, Ryan.
Yep. Oh, they got the
Oh, they got the
dragon in
dragon in
sixth.
sixth.
They got the dragon in sixth. Your man Bello still doing good
Billow's
with the
still hanging
chips.
in there.
Let's see, he doubled. Let's see what he doubled up to. So he's now up to about 30 million.
Wow.
All right.
All right, let's
So
go.
that is the up to the moment updates as of this recording. We have 5 left. So that leaves Bello, uh, Bello, Zhang, Allen, our man Allen, still in there. I didn't see his name. And Lucian Silveria, I didn't see his name. Right? And Paulip Cabrera are still in it.
Yeah, at this point, no news is good news, right?
Yeah, let's go, Allen. I know I'm rooting for Allen at this point. I'd like to know how many chips he has, though.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's quite a table. It used to be that they would stream, um, the Mega Millions final tables for a couple of them, right? But the live at the bike room is no more. Bally's Big Bet Poker
Yeah,
is no
that's a
longer
shame.
at the bike.
That is a shame. I played in a couple of final tables over the years that got streams. That was it was pretty fun to do. I mean, they would take away our phones and put them in bags and stuff. But yeah, it's too bad that they stopped doing that. It was also great research. I mean, if you can go back and like find those, there's a lot of regs playing those, and I used to actually watch them just to see how people were playing. Obviously, people play a little bit differently the final tables, but it was definitely good research
Yeah.
resource.
Yep. Yep. So that's too bad that we can't have that at the bike anymore. Good news is, however, that the Bally's Big Bet Poker is actually not leaving LA. It is moving. So that is getting set up over at Commerce, and fingers crossed
Hmm.
that we can get it used for the tournaments over there. It's a
Interesting.
little
Nice.
unclear what the plan is, what the overall game plan is, but I do know that it is being set up over there in the old kind of sports bar and grill area.
Nice. We'll see
Yep.
how that goes.
So fingers crossed that will probably be all set up by the end of the year, definitely by early next year. So yep, fingers crossed. It'd be great if, you know, in an ideal dream world, wouldn't it be great if we could get WPT back for the LAPC and we could stream it? That would be amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So that's all we know right now for the Mega Millions. Let's move on to our procedural error segment. So we already kind of talked about what we'd like to see procedurally to maybe get these big events off to a quicker start and to a little bit smoother start. If you have the planning ahead of time, just asking, please, logistics, open some more tables, get there earlier. But we started the segment because we saw on Twitter, what's his name, Mike M. Salzberg.
Mike Salzburg. Yep.
Yep. Calling out, he played the Mega Millions and he had some concerns for the bike about these double bagging events and about some of the security concerns on them.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting point that he was making. So I think what he was saying, it was the same chipset for one of the last flights, one of the last qualifying flights. And what could really happen is that if somebody bagged a smaller stack, they could take some chips out of the bag and then just bring that into day two and add it to their own stack. So, you know, it's an interesting point, and it's definitely like and exploit. But the chances of it happening are so low because it's like basically, let's say 300 people qualify, you got 12 to 6% that actually make it to day two, depending on the flight. Of that, you have to have double qualified. You also have to have double qualified a smaller stack, and then also be willing to cheat. And actually, I still do believe in the goodness of people that most people are not willing to cheat. So the chance of this happening are so extremely low that I just don't really think it's a thing. But it's always good for the community to call stuff out so that the casinos are aware of it. But when we look at Mo's responses, it seems like they're already on top of it and they're making some good points, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to lay out some more of the details on these, like we had mentioned, this tournament is several weeks long. We have day one starting flights for 10 days, I believe, 3 starting flights a day. And that is a massive number of chips that get used. So for the early flights, the bike has probably 4 or 5 chipsets, tournament chipsets, and they use all of them except for the chips that we use for day two. And when you bag up, you just verify your chip stack with the floor, with the dealers. With the floor double counts you, and you write the number down. And then before day two, they make those bags for you, and they take your amount and they put the chips in the bag for you, and that's what you get when you show up on day two. But for the very last day of qualifying, they use the actual set of chips from the that will be used on day two, so that when you bag up, you just put your chips in the bag, and you get them the next day. That saves them the time of having to make those bags that night, so that when they have a flight that ends very, very late in the night, the tournament runners won't have to be up until 4 a.m. making everybody's bags. So, to kind of build on what Derek was saying, you can only do that in this situation on that last day. And then here is the response from Mo, which, or from the tournament directors, whoever was tweeting this day. His point is that there are many casinos that do these multiple starting flight, multiple bagging events. I know, for instance, the Lodge. They have been doing some tournaments with multiple bagging, and I know we'll talk about some tournaments. Just the one that we just had at Commerce. You do multiple bags, and you can get a bonus if you bagged a larger stack for another day. And the point Mo is making is that oftentimes, now he says every casino uses the same chips for day 1 and 2. I think it really depends on the number of starting flights and the proximity to that day that they do. But I do know that sometimes other casinos do use the same chips and you just bag them each time. And 4 chips. So they have 4 chip sets in addition to the ones they use, I guess. And his point is that this is not a common unique to the Mega Millions. It's a problem unique to tournaments that have incentive to bag more than once, or the ability to bag more than once and bring your best bag forward. And what he says here is it makes a lot of sense. If there was someone stealing chips at the end of every night, they count everybody's chip totals and they make sure it adds up to the chips they gave out. If it's not correct, they can go back to the cameras and then they will be able to find who did not put the number of chips down that they had, or who made some chips disappear. And at that point, they lay out their punishment here. Honestly, I would say a bigger concern, and another one that's very difficult to kind of have happen, another low percentage chance happening. It'd be a much bigger concern to have someone, quote unquote, on the inside helping you, right? Because they do make all these bags after the fact, and the floors are putting the chips in the bag, and then you just show up and you have your chips, right? In fact, I actually, at the last Mega Millions, had this happen to me on accident. When I showed up for my bag, I took my chips out of the bag, I stacked them up, and I had too many. So the floor actually screwed up, and they put too many chips in my bag, and I had to call them over to give the chips back. But I think it'd be way easier than doing what Salty's saying here, is if you just had someone on the inside put extra chips in your bag. That seems like an easier way to cheat than doing what, like you said, you have to bag a stack, you have to play another flight, and then you have to pocket all those chips, then you have to bring them back,
double qualify, yeah,
and then you have to slip them back on the table when no one's looking, and then
Right.
it's like slipping them
it's
away.
unlikely. Yeah. It's also good to just hear about all the safeguards that the bike has in place to prevent this kind of stuff from happening. I think it's really good that casinos actually don't open source all their security measures, right? Because this is how people get around them. So it's always reassuring to, it's not that they just like throw some bags on the table and get started. There is some checks and balances there. So good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's nice to know that they double count everything. Um, so another thing, as we were browsing Twitter this afternoon, um, some other interesting. The local tournament directors chimed in on a few other threads. Let's see here. This is the thread in question. Here we go. So is it Tana or Tana? Tana Karn, the CEO of the Run Good Gear and Run Good Poker series, had this tweet out talking about a rule change that they are testing out to try and mitigate the pain of being, and this is something every tournament player has felt lately, the pain of paying the big blind, paying your small blind, and then having your table break and moving to a new table and having to pay the big blind again and having to pay the small blind again. So that is the number one complaint and downside of the big blind ante system that's been being used for since I've been playing terms for a number of years now, and they have some ideas about what they can do to fix that up. I hadn't never heard of this before though.
Yeah, so the big blind protection rule is a good one. I hadn't heard about it before today either. But all it does it's when your table breaks, they just basically ensure that you won't pay the blinds again. And it looks like I'm not sure how they actually like go in and enforce that and how they're like moving people around. I think maybe it's just that they just sit out until the button passes them. But it seems like they're also going to be pushing this to get added to the TDA, the Tournament Directors Association. So it'd be great if this just becomes part of the rule set, right? Um, but between that is like the big blind Andy was one of the best inventions that we've had in tournament poker over the last like decade, in my opinion. But there are like these little kind of edge cases where you can like basically double pay the blinds if you just kind of get your table broken or even on the redraws.
Yeah, absolutely. I've played a couple tournaments back before I was almost purely a cash player before, but I did play a few tournaments back when it was everybody's ante. And if you've played with me around here now, I'm always kind of a second dealer. I can't help it. I'm always trying to help the dealer out, get the hands out faster. So back then when it was ante, there was always a little. Each side of the table had their own little captain gathering all the antes up, making sure everybody was paid up, and making sure everything was ready for your side so that the dealer could
Yeah.
be a little faster. Right? And that was always me. So man, that was annoying. It was annoying to be that guy. It was annoying to have to do that, and it was annoying because it slowed the game down, and you just had all those extra chips. So I agree, it's one of the
Yeah.
best innovations to tournament poker in the last couple of
Yeah.
years. However, the one time we don't like it, or the one time it really changes the game, which that's one thing I don't really like is when it affects the game and affects the strategy. Is in the most extreme cases is heads up, right? Because when you play heads up, it went from being small blind, big blind, antes being basically irrelevant to suddenly you're playing small blind, double big blind, like
Yep.
that. And that's the extreme. But even at any lower handed table, you're magnifying and amplifying the effect of that big blind, right? So that is
Yep.
another thing that a lot of people have a problem with, especially near the end of a tournament. So guess who also would have a problem with something like that? Well, Mr. Alan Kessler. Um, Kevin down at the Gardens had replied to the previous thread talking about things they do to help mitigate that as well and to keep the feel bad of getting a bad table redraw from happening. And what he said here is he mentioned that down at the Gardens, they do something on their three table redraw to try and make sure that if you had the button, you are going to still have the button or be close to the button when the redraw happens, which is a pretty cool thing that they're trying out down at the Gardens. But Mr. Kessler jumped on and quote tweeted Kevin and had another thought like, hey, how about when you go to three, not just protecting big blinds, let's do something about this short-handed full big blind ante. So what do you think about that?
Um, so I think basically what he's saying is just eliminating the big blind ante after you get down to the three table redraw. So I think that would be kind of interesting to kind of do that, right? Um, because it does really impact especially at the final table, like kind of what's, especially down to the final three tables when there's so much money at stake, what's going on. So I actually really like the idea from Alan. Alan is like a nit about a lot of things, but when we're talking about rules, sometimes he really spots some things, and sometimes some of the things he says is not really like super relevant or maybe super important. But I thought this was a pretty good idea.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that when you get down to shorthanded, because when you're in the final three tables, you have to lose three people per table before your table's going to break down, right? Yeah,
Yep.
three people per table. So you're going to be playing seven-handed for sure. And then when you get down to the final two tables, you're going to be playing five-handed for a while before you break that table, right? So that's a significant strategic difference, and it's a significant percentage of your stack that the big blinds start to
Yep.
become, especially here in the dailies or the lower cost tournaments tend to be extremely fast at the end of the structure.
Yeah.
So I totally agree. I totally agree. One thing that I
Yeah.
brought up that I found interesting was that around here, as soon as we hit that 612K level and it goes up to 10, 5, 15 or 10, 20, we tend to color up the 1Ks immediately at that point. As soon as the blinds no longer need the 1K, they get colored out immediately. And I thought that was pretty normal. I guess I just got used to it around here. Some other tournament directors, though, another tournament director friend from the East Coast here, Big Rich here, Mr. Rich Herbert guy, shout out to Maryland Live on the East Coast. I believe that's where he was or is a tournament director. He had mentioned, though, that is not the case. You should not really be coloring out that quickly. Um, what do you think about how fast we color up the chips here on the east or on the west coast? It's something I never really thought about, but I wouldn't mind having those thousands around for another level or two.
Yeah, I think Matt Savage definitely pushed for that, and what they were trying to do is really more operationally. It's just easier for things to kind of work for dealers, right? For tournament directors, is to get the smaller chip denominations off the table and just make things more efficient. But I do think that there is this other cost of number one, you constantly have to make change, right? Because you're taking all the like the smaller chips off the table, but then I think when it jumps to a level where the chips aren't needed anymore, I think it's fine. I mean, it feels like it's probably fine.
Okay. Yeah, because my point was simply I liked Alan's idea, but if we implemented it here, I was thinking, well, if we did that, when you got to three tables, you'd probably have to do, say, give back four 5Ks and get a stack of 1Ks because you couldn't post antes with those. And that's when this was brought up. And the strategic
Mm.
reason was for, my friend Rich brought up was you should still be able to bet 18,000 when the blinds are 10K or something like that. Or you should still be able to bet 28,000 when the blinds are 15K. Um, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I think that's a huge deal, but I wouldn't mind keeping thousands around just a little longer, maybe one more level. I'm actually a big proponent for the gradual or the kind of progressive color up where
yeah.
floor or someone is walking around. The question that was thrown out there was, what if we just roll back to a half a big blind ante when you get to the final three tables? You guys think that's a good idea? Is it something you'd like to see people try around here? I'm not sure how much flexibility the other TDs have, but I sure know that DJ is willing to try some crazy stuff over at Commerce. So if you wanted to do a traditional ante for a summer part of it, I bet we could convince him to try something. So let
Yeah,
us know
I
what you
think
think
Alan
in the
makes a good point
comments.
here.
All right. So um, why don't you, yeah, why don't you talk a little bit about your $1 million challenge, Derek? I'm going to bring up your
Yeah,
video, something I didn't queue up ahead of time. Sorry about that. So,
no worries. Yeah, so I did challenge myself to hit 1 million in earnings this year, but I kind of have a really long way to go. At 500 and I have basically
oh, hold on a
550K
sec. Hold on a
left to
sec.
go.
Wait, I found your video.
Oh, here it is. Myself to have $1 million in poker earnings by the end of the year. I'm at 500,000. I have 5 months left. Yeah. Yeah, I really needed to finish deep in this Mega Millions, I think, for this to be realistic, and I didn't do that. I got a min cash, so I'm really gonna have to be betting hard on, the Commerce Series coming up. There is the big Poker October that we always get, but then really, I think I need to do really well in the WPT in Vegas in December. So we'll see how it goes. But there wasn't really too much of thought to this other than I wanted to have $1 million in earnings by the end of the year. So that's all it really was. I get like the strategy behind it is, I actually definitely do not put in enough volume because I have a job during the week. So it's really tough for me to play on weekdays. So usually I'm more of a weekend warrior for poker. So it also reduces my chances of being able to put in the volume to kind of get there. But we should always aim high, right? So this is my challenge for the year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to aim high, especially for us weekend warriors. But let me just ask realistically. I know I agree. There's no way you or me, anyone with a job, can really put in that kind of volume at the stakes we play, right? If so, I was kind of hoping. I know for myself, in the last couple years, I play roughly at an average buy-in of around 400-ish dollars per entry. So at 400-ish dollars per entry, if you have a really good ROI and say a really good live tournament ROI, like an amazing one, like 50% or something. Let me get my calculator out. How many tournaments would I have to play at $400, right, to make a $500,000 in a year? So I would have to then, what I would have to put in, would I have to have a 250,000 in buy-ins? Is that how 50% works, or is that 100%?
So
Anyways,
I think you have to get your ROI. So whatever your ROI is from your buy-ins, and then just calculate it from there. So let's just say your ROI is 15%. So then,
well, let's make
basically,
the math easy. Let's say I'm amazing and that's 50%.
okay. So if it's
Easy math.
50%, and what was the number you had to get to? You wanted to do 500K,
500,000, yeah.
right? So I think that would be 1.5 million, right?
Wait, would I have to do 1 million or 1.5
Oh
million?
no, 1
1
million. So
million.
1 million to get 500K at 50%. That's right. That's
Because
right.
I would then be cashing for 1.5 million total, and it'd be 5
Yes.
million in however, your challenge, you don't need to have 500 in profit though, right? So we can
That's
reduce
right.
those
Because it's
numbers.
just 500 in
Yep,
earnings.
so it gets
Yes.
a little harder. So really it's like 333,000.
So I think my
Is that
ROI
right? Because
is
then you would
my
cash for
my
500.
ROI is usually somewhere between 15 and 20%. So yeah, I actually didn't even do the calculation here. So basically, to get to 500K, I would need to get uh, 1.5 million, 1.7.
Well, no,
Yeah,
no, no.
actually, I don't.
We're not talking profit though, just in earnings, right? So it doesn't have to be that high. So if you're 1.2, you probably would have to put in like 400 and like 440 or something like that thousand
Mm.
in entries, right? Just because it's not
So
profit, it's
basically,
just
what
a
I need to
number.
do is enter in a 10K and then just cash out for 2 million in the main event. So that's how I'll get there.
That is another way to do it. That is another way to do
I
it.
mean that's just how I have to do it, right? I have to actually just basically get a podium finish in some of these really really big events. That's the only way I'm going to do it. We can do all the math we want because I'm not grinding out like a certain percentage of finishes. I literally just have to
So
like
you're
podium
so you're
finish on
saying
big.
you don't think you can fire off over 400 entries at 1K by the end of the year?
No,
Come
I
on,
don't
there's
even. Can we even find that many
how
in
many?
one case?
How many? Well, funny you should mention that. There are a couple more 1Ks on the schedule now. We're gonna get to that soon. But yeah, good luck, buddy. Good luck. We will. I think we'll
Thank you. Thank you.
check back in on this every couple weeks. We'll make sure you check this number here, this number 445, and we'll see. We'll watch it grow. We'll watch it grow. But we will be down there. Luckily, the WPT main event, you don't even have to win that thing to get to your number. So it's a good shot
That's
right there.
true. That's
It's a
true.
great shot right there. All right. So that's the look behind. Let's take a look at what's coming up next week. So this week is now the bike series is now over. The Legends of Poker series is done. The bike takes a little breather. We are now fully into the Commerce Hold'em series, and the next tournament on the list for the Commerce Hold'em series is the Bounty Multiplier.
I still don't understand this tournament. If you can explain it to me.
Well, I'm glad you asked because I've been talking with DJ all morning trying to figure out what the heck is up with this tournament. Um, so, the Bounty Multiplier. If you like bounty tournaments, listen up. This is a very unique one. So, next week is a mystery bounty. We'll go over that later. I think everyone knows how those work. Regular bounties, where you get a bounty right from the top, I think everyone knows how those work. This one, half of the prize money. So this tournament starts on Wednesday. It's a $400 entry. It is 340 no one two yeah $340 of the entry goes towards the prizes, with $60 going towards the fees and the rake. So of that $340, it is roughly split 50-50 between bounty and prize pool. Now I say roughly because the math's gonna basically work out to 50-50. But here's how it works. You play your day one flights. 1 in 10 are going to qualify and be in the money. So this is normal if you're used to commerce tournaments. Day ones always play into the money, so you don't have to come back unless you're going to make something. There are no bounties on day one. You come back for day two, and everybody who comes back for day two now has a bounty on their head that is worth $1,700. So every person that gets knocked out on day two, if you knock someone out, you make $1,700. Now, the way that the wrinkle in this is that you are allowed to bag multiple times, and when you do bag multiple times, you don't take your best bag forward, you combine your bags. So in this tournament, knocking people out is worth half the prize pool. And obviously, in a bounty tournament, having a small stack to go into day two is much worse than having a small stack going into a regular tournament. So here, you have a chance to play multiple flights and just continue to grow and build your stack. Now, every time you bag again, what you're going to get is the minimum cash for day two, which with half roughly of the prize money going to the normal prize pool, that minimum cash is probably going to be around $300, maybe $320, something like that. Definitely, it's going to be somewhere below 2 buy-ins, somewhere between 1.5 to 2 buy-ins. And by buy-ins, I mean the half of the prize money that goes in there. What is interesting, though, is that you get your extra chips, you get them added to your stack, but a lot of times in these kind of situations, you would also win the bounty for yourself, but that's not the case in this one. In this one, you just get those chips, so you get the bigger stack to have the better opportunity to knock other people out on day two. And the way that works out in the math is, I believe, like this. So commerce is pretty generous when it comes to payouts. I believe they always round up to the next whole person, even if the number's pretty low. So 1 in 10 making the money. Definitely if you have like 95 people, 10 people are going to get into the money. And that wouldn't work out math-wise for this 170, because if you gave everybody a $1,700 bounty on day two, there wouldn't be enough money in the prize pool because there are only 95 entries. So that's why I say that roughly half of the money is going to go to each side. What's really going to happen is that no matter how many people make day two, they're all worth $1,700. However much money that is, that's the bounty prize pool, which is going to be roughly half. I mean, it's when all the math is said and done, when you cancel out the extra people that got rounded up, the extra people that got rounded down, the extra double baggers, it's going to end up being roughly half the prize pool. But it's not going to be exact, so I wouldn't be too put off by that. So
where's the multiplier come in?
the multiplier, I believe, is just a what's the word? Just a call out to the fact that at a regular bounty, we would be sitting down and each person would be worth 170 right off the bat. But instead, on day two, they'll be worth 10 times that.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe that's what it is. It's either that or it's a call out to the fact that you're bagging multiple times and you're increasing your stack.
Okay.
But I believe that is where the name comes from.
Got it.
Yep.
Well, it looks like this is going to favor the grinders. Who are going to be out there every day trying to bag as many bags as possible.
Right. So
yeah,
interesting.
I'd be interested in looking at what the chip counts look like on day two. I'm not going to be able to play this one, unfortunately. So I got some stuff going on this weekend, but I'm definitely going to go and check out the day two chip stacks to see what they look like.
Yeah, no, I actually wanted to get your opinion on that because it's such a big bounty multiplier. It really adds an extra wrinkle. Because let's say if this were a traditional tournament, I don't think I would recommend anybody who gets a reasonable stack to continue playing and try and get a min cash, right? I don't, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think that there is very many tournaments where you can combine your stacks and move on. But I think for a bounty tournament, you should probably fire as many flights as possible because it is so important to have a big stack on a day two of a bounty tournament, right? It's because you need to gamble to get bounties. Like you have to take spots where you might not take in a normal tournament just to get the bounties because half the prize pool is there. So obviously more chips matter.
Right. Yeah. Full 50% of the prize pool is going to be in those bounties. I
Yeah.
just, I just am curious what the diminishing returns are. I feel like if you bagged a small stack and
Hmm.
like I would treat it, I would almost think of it personally the way I would think of a best bag forwards tournament. If I bagged a stack that's good enough that I likely won't be the shortest stack at any table,
Yeah.
coming in again and trying to qualify again, the chances of qualifying again and getting a decent stack to add to my stack as opposed to just losing that money,
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't find it worth it. But if, of course, if I bagged a small stack, it's vitally important to get a bigger stack because this is a bounty tournament. You have all the value, half the value, like you said, is in bounty. So I feel
Probably
like there's a sweet spot somewhere in there.
Probably if you bag what you believe to be like a top five stack, don't come back, right? Or if you've accumulated enough to look like you have a top five stack, that there's no reason to keep playing, because that should be big enough to like cover most people at the table.
Sure, sure.
Maybe anything outside of the top five you might want to consider a little bit, but how many people would make day two? Just doing so is it the
One in
one in
10.
10?
1 in 10.
1 in 10. So let's just say that they get
So
300.
300K average for day two, not counting double bag combining.
Yeah. So let's just say they get something like 100 per flight up until like Friday, where they might be getting like 200, 250. So it's like 400, 600, 7. So maybe they'll get like 800, 900 people total, right? So 1 in 10, right, would be then 90, 100 people for day two. So yeah, maybe something like a top 20 stack might be good or a top 10 stack. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know
if
what
you're
the
going to be
exact
in the
math might
second
be.
half, if you're going to be in the top half, I think that
Yeah.
you're,
I think top half might not even be. It's like you just want to cover the table, right? Covering the table is so powerful that probably something like a top 10 stack is where I would not consider going back anymore.
sure, sure. And even even with me saying that I feel like the actual dollar value proposition may not be that amazing, I'll still fire as many as I can. It just seems like
Right. This is was one of those where I think it'll just be fun to fire a lot and see how many
exactly.
chips. It'd just be funny to just have like a massive stack of
Yeah,
chips from like
that's
six
the
backs.
exact reason. That's the exact reason. There are not a lot of tournaments where you combine stacks. So
Right.
just the
Right.
ability to
Fire
do
them
it,
all.
if you can, like, if you could bag it, you bag 1 million, you bag 2 million,
Yeah.
like that's just the fun. It just seems like fun to just be able to do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I may only get to play one flight, but I'm hoping I get to play at least two flights. I'll definitely
Yeah.
be there on Saturday, and I think I can play Friday. We'll see. Um,
Good luck, man.
this is a thing that is happening more and more, though. So I would be interested to hear what are your guys' thoughts out there listening. How do you feel about combining stacks in this tournament? How would you feel about combining stacks in a regular tournament? Um, and what kind of situation would you want to see that in? I know, for instance, the Lodge, when they run one of their large prize pool small buy-in tournaments, it's actually a bring your best two stacks forward format, and you get a bagging bonus, kind of like the quantums at the bike do. And also, they do another funny thing, which is the chip leader of each flight, I think, gets an extra bonus, or maybe the chip leader going into day two gets an extra bonus, something like that. So additional money coming out of the prize pool for kind of these side games of trying to build a big stack before you get to the end, right? And I'm sure the motive for them is if they put that incentive out there to try and incentivize people to buy in more times, right? But it is also kind of a fun side game because, like I said, we don't get the chance to combine stacks around here. I mean, can you imagine
Yeah.
if you could combine stacks in the Mega Millions? People would start day
Man.
two with like 3.5 million
Oof.
chips. you
We
know?
would actually never finish the tournament, probably.
Yeah, never. So, but this one should be a fun one. It's very, it's unique. I don't think they've run a tournament like this around here before. So once again,
Yeah.
DJ is using this tournament to do something unique, do something that should be a lot of fun. Definitely going to go out and support it and try and bag more than
Yeah.
a million.
Yeah, give DJ some support because he keeps introducing all these fun games to us, right,
Yeah,
in the tournament world.
I missed a million by so that much in the Big 50. I'm going to get it this time. So the 1 day tournament on Saturday. Oh, Saturday. Okay. The 1 day tournament, just to make sure it is on Saturday, because let me just double check my dates on this.
Yeah, it should be
Yep.
the ninth.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's on Saturday. Sunday they're going to do. Okay. I got you. So the 1 day tournament on Saturday, and I know why now. So they are not having a afternoon flight of this tournament on Saturday, as you can see here, and the reason is because it's a combine your stacks tournament. DJ and company have to create these bags after the last flight. So they're not doing a afternoon flight so that they have time that night to create these bags. So instead of an afternoon flight, they're going to do their 8 hours and times up tournament. Another one that's unique to Commerce, I believe. If you've never played one of these, it's an interesting format. I played one. The way it works is you play the tournament for 8 hours. If the tournament somehow ends in those 8 hours, it's just a normal tournament. After the 8 hours, though, if the tournament is not over, they just do a equity chop.
Hmm. So
So
people
you're
like chopping tournaments. This
Yep,
is
so
the
you're
one for you.
forced.
It just gonna
Yep,
no arguing about whether or not you should chop. You're just gonna chop.
exactly.
It's
At 8
8 hours.
hours, they get all the chip totals, they run it through the calculator, and the prize money is divided as said. That being said, if it's not if it's not a big tournament, oftentimes it ends before then. But there's definitely a chance that
Hmm.
it will end at 8 hours, well, there's definitely a chance it'll end with people still in it at 8 hours. Um, but you know how long it's going to take exactly. This tournament will be over
Yeah.
by.
Almost just kind of feels like you're playing a survivor. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like that, and it really depends. The one I played was small enough that I'm pretty confident it ended. I finished ninth, I think. Yeah, I finished ninth, and there was still almost 3 hours left, I think. So that
Hmm.
one almost certainly finished. It was pretty small, so it depends on how
Hmm.
many people come out.
Interesting.
Yep. And then after that, they have on Sunday they're going to run their regular standard Sunday 1 day tournament, $360 buy-in that you should be pretty used to if you've played any of the Commerce series. They almost always have those on Sundays. That's in fact where I got this. This Remington was one of those Sunday 1 days. And then on
um,
Monday begins the mystery bounty, which we will talk about next week. But the mystery bounty starts next week.
yeah, it's a big favorite, big fan favorite. These mystery bounties.
Absolutely, $400 buy-in for that. Okay, so that is what is coming up at Commerce next week. So before we get in the final and jump into the roundup for the week, big announcement. Speaking of tournaments and 1Ks to help Derek along on his $1 million challenge, I have I have received word from Kevin down at the Gardens that they are approved to do a $1.1 thousand buy-in tournament at the end of the month. They should
Nice.
have some official announcements and stuff on the website and things coming out. I'm guessing later in the week, but he wanted to make sure the word got out and started promoting right away. I believe it's a 1,000 for the prize pool. Now all of this stuff unofficial, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So don't if the numbers are different on the poster, don't kill me. I
That's
believe
super
it's
exciting because we
yep.
don't get 1Ks around very often down here in LA now anymore. So super excited to see this one in Gardens. Such a great venue to play at. So excited
Yeah.
for this one.
Yeah, so it should be a $1,000 for the prize pool, $100 entry fee. Great rake ratio there. It will be the
Yeah,
last weekend of September, so it'll be after the Commerce Hold'em series wraps up. And they're
nice.
intending to have 2 day ones, a day one on Friday, a day one on Saturday, with day two being on Sunday and wrapping it up then. I believe, once again, don't not official until you see it on their website. I believe it's going to have a 200K guarantee, and
Nice.
that is the same guarantee that the Commerce's main event has. So that's going to be great. The Commerce's main event is coming up in 2 weeks, I believe. So then
Nice.
2 weeks after that, we'll have this one. So
I'm sure Kevin will be running some satellites in to pile some people into that tournament. So good. Looking forward
yeah,
to it.
absolutely. I hope so. They're always running single tables down there, and I bet they'll run. Hopefully, they'll run a mega, and
Yeah.
we'll get a ton of people out there. And the Gardens always runs a great event as well. You know, I've
Yeah.
had great luck at the Gardens this year. I can't wait for it. I am going to be
Oh,
coming
that's
back
right.
majorly jet lagged, so I'll be having a little bit of a disadvantage there. But you know, I run really good at the Gardens. Hopefully, it will turn things around. That is where that guy came from. So we've been having a good year at the good year down there. I don't know. Unfortunately, it's the furthest one, the biggest drive for me, but it's been worth it. All right. So now it is time for the rundown of the week. So this week, as we've already said, the big tournament, the fun tournament, the multi-day tournament is the Bounty Multiplier at Commerce. That is where I'll be. That's where you'll find me this weekend. And I will also be there on Sunday for the one day if things don't go as planned. If you are looking for a one day because you can't do a big multi day tournament or you just don't like the sound of this bounty multiplier, there's, of course, the really good one day tournament down at the Gardens on Saturday. They come with a 20. Was that 25K guarantee or 20 guarantee? They always kill it. Last time I played it, they got to 40K in the prize pool. So that is going on Saturday. And one other thing to mention that there is no daily tournament at Hollywood Park this Sunday because of a football game. And that is the roundup for the week. Anything else? You got anything else for the people, Derek?
No, this is thank everyone for listening. Hopefully you like this content. So much stuff is happening in LA as you can see right now. So again, we are in a poker boom. So many awesome events to play. The bike, the commerce, now gardens as well, and all the other casinos are running tournaments all the time. So yeah, this is a great time to be a tournament player.
Absolutely. So much exciting stuff. And, even after just the one week, we want to thank you for all the support you've already been showing us, and I really appreciate you guys letting us know that this is something that you're interested in, and that you are looking forward to hearing what's going on. Please remember to like, subscribe, tell your friends about it. Tell the other tournament players about this, the other people that you play with at the table. I know I answered a lot of questions this weekend about what's going on next weekend. So hopefully we'll have some. We're gonna have to get some cards or something printed out, so I don't have to keep getting everyone's phone numbers to send them the link, Derek.
Yeah, well, let's get some patches with the URL on it or something.
Yeah. Yep. Hopefully by next week we'll have a logo for you guys. All right. Thanks for watching. And this is the roundup. So once again, we will see you out there at the tables. And if I do see you, be gentle. Please don't knock me out.
Thank you, everyone.